You know about Mona? You
Mona?
know what he did in the coca? You don't even look like you know about Miss Dika, Shalitel, and Miss Drusilla, who used to make black pudding. I wouldn't even ask you if you know about Small from Hendrix from shop, which was opposite Wong Baker shop, which was near to Mr. Slow, who used to make coffee. He's a beefy man. Don't watch me, sir. Me mother don't like salt and pepper mouth wash pan with me. If you don't know who me is, you better find out. You better ask somebody. I is Miss Bortabai. I was born by the old police station. In them days, everybody used to live together without political manipulation. Me neighbor was Miss Sati. Her husband was Ramlal. And Ramsar shop was not too far away. Malyara cake shop up the road. Them Tiwari used to mine cow. People said Jumbi used to walk in them Tiwari yard all day.
Good evening, good morning, everyone. This is What the Story Say, and we're starting off a brand new season. For the viewership, thank you for all the support you've given, following and liking and so on. And like I say, I am Pauline Beard. The show is What the Story Say. Follow the show, click the button, like, subscribe. Good. I want you to bring your children, your young adults, your CXC students, your students who are studying literature, because we're going to have a good showdown today. We're going to be gaffing about Black history using our own local stories from our own local people. And the people involved today are Marlies Simon, or Marlies Harris. She's a Buxtonian woman, Buxton woman like me. And then we have, Dr. Kwesi Oginga. He is a BV man. We gaffing today about BV man. Let me tell y'all, this show, What the Story Say, going from village to village, from me village to you village. Now we're going to BV. For the foreigners who are listening to this show, and some of my students, let me tell you about Guyana. Guyana is made up of lots of regions. And how many regions? 10?
10 regions.
Yes, I know my Guyanese. 10 regions. And I'm from Region 4. All of us here from Region 4.
Yep.
The Mica de Marara. And I'm from Buxton and BV is a village up the road, as we say. Not far from Buxton, maybe like
3 miles.
3 miles. Good, you see? And he is a BV man. I know some things about BV. So while we gaffing here, gaffing means having an informal conversation. When we gaff by the roadside, at the road corner, any little informal place, back and forth. And that's what we're going to have today. I first heard about BV because my grandfather, the Griffiths, are from BV. So that's my orientation. So I used to have to go as a child to BV to get to know my other relatives. So what y'all know about BV? This is not interview, this is gaff.
Well, I'm smiling because I went to Blade Now, and a lot of times the people from BV and the people from Buxton, they were close friends, but they were rivals also in some kind of strange. There was like this what we call now frenemy. So we will rival each other in like BV and Pleasance. I remember will rival each other in like sports and running. So it's like you might find somebody's really athletic and good from BV and then somebody really athletic and good from Buxton. So sports time, there used to be this rivalry, but a lot of times those two people who were the good sports people were friends. So
Marley's good. Let me stick a pin in that. You know what we used to say? Buxton people stop train, BV people talk name, Pleasant.
That was only done for the rhyme. That was not a sociological fact. That was only done for the rhyme. I think what BV is known for is the long walk from the main road to get into the residential area of the village. Yeah. So we used to call it better for walk in. That's the
Okay.
reputation of BV. That's the real reputation. We don't talk name.
Yeah. Because
What does BV mean for the people who are watching who don't know?
Well, BV comes from a Dutch word. You know, the Dutch had colonized Guyana at one time, and one or two
Right.
names were dropped and left. And BV really is the short for better verwachting.
Mm-hmm.
And better verwachting, when translated from Dutch to English, is better expectation.
Right. So Kwesi,
Yeah,
tell me
right away,
something.
we got a motto and a guide.
Yeah, hold on now. When does BV people learn for spell better for walking?
It got so many different letters and so many twists and turns in it, you know. Yeah, it takes a while. At least it took me a while.
Yeah. Another way I connect to BV is that I like to live in the archives. I love the archives. And so whenever I go to Guyana, I find myself there. And I've been looking up BV. And as part of what I do, village rhetorics, you know, talking about things concerning village, all things concerning village, BV's name always come up with Buxton. You see, they had this trio, BV, Buxton, and Plaisance.
Yes.
Back in the day, post-slavery, they were always agitating for Buxton and for BV. So when Buxton had a concern about lands and rates and taxes, BV didn't leave them alone. BV joined in.
Mm-hmm.
And if you see what these people used to write to the court, they used to petition the court. They petitioned the court in 1852 and times before, and they would write letters and telling them they're not paying no taxes. And so they didn't leave Buxton behind. So whenever you hear a Buxton story, there's a BV story. Yeah.
But you know, the people were really related, because when you go back to the plantation days, the group of slaves really came up on the Lusignan plantation. And then they went across to Buxton. And similarly, some from that Lusignan plantation also went to Bedford. So there was a kind of a relationship between the people. Yeah.
I see.
And I guess too, this is just me just thinking now, BV, Buxton, Plaisance, if you're kind of looking at from the Georgetown side, coming from Georgetown and heading up to more to the East Coast, I think those three villages are probably the three that were more populated, I guess, with Africans, with Black people. And I guess to me, I think that's why the standout always happened of those three, Plaisance, BV, and Buxton, because I think it was the ones where you first come from Georgetown that are really more populated with I think Black working class, to put it better. Because I mean, if you think of Atlanticville and those places that you'll meet before you get to, if I get my geography right, they were probably they were Black people, but the more affluent, you wouldn't call them your working class, I think. That's my view in terms of Plaisance, BV, and Buxton. You'll find the more working class people and the people who are more willing to put foot down to fight for certain things.
I think something else too, as it pertains to population from Georgetown going further up on the East Coast, much of those lands were vacant lands, were farmlands. You see, but the dense population would have been in these three villages. Plaisance, BV, and of course Buxton. And there was one main sugar estate there. If you're going back to those days, the sugar estate that brought us there on the coast. The main sugar estate then, it was at Mount Report first. And then of course, Bedford, BV. So a lot of people from Buxton came to work at the sugar estates. Plaisance also, and I think these were the three populated areas because they fed the sugar plantation. They gave the labor to the estate there. It has to do something with that.
Yes, and also we shouldn't forget that these are villages that were African purchased.
Yes,
you know the story of Van Groningen, that he was this Dutchman. You tell the story. I don't want to tell the story. You're the BV man. Apparently, You know the story about the wheelbarrow, right?
Yeah, well, yes, that's the first village that was bought was Victoria.
Right.
But the slaves, even though they were broke like Joe, they didn't work for money. Somehow they were very frugal. Whatever little they had, they saved. So when the plantations were being sold, though they turned up with the wheelbarrows full of money. Yeah. At one time, there was a particular part in BV that all the freed slaves' names were on a document claiming that land. It was not until I think must be sometime in the 90s, the 80s, 90s, that those lands, because they were left vacant as though they were the sugar plantation lands, but these were lands bought by the Africans. But you know what happened? They wanted them back in the plantations, that they were not going because they could find the kind of labor force they wanted. After the blacks left, the sugar estate began to die with the indentured servants and all that coming in. It didn't work as well. And so they wanted them back. They would flood the lands and that they bought, started their own villages and so on. They would try to get them back, and they tried all kinds of tactics. And the former slaves began to move away. That's how they developed the interior, looking for gold, diamonds. They started new industries. Yeah. So those lands were left there, in some cases vacant. And I remember just before I came across to the States, they had dug up and found the document with all the names of the former slaves, and they were identifying the lands that were owned by the slaves. And they were trying to, well, they've developed them now. They've developed them.
Yes. Yeah. So right now, thanks for that. Right now, there's a movement because certain people are trying to claim the land and so on. But we're not going to touch on that right now. The people can take that up in the comments. You wrote this piece called I is a BV Man. Well, it's a book. It's a book. I is a BV Man. And I had a lot to do with that book, the publication of that book. And there's a poem in it called I is a BV Man. And this is where I want to have the young people who are studying literature and so on to focus on this poem. Because, you know, we know of other poems from other countries that appear in books and they're used in schools for students to do literary analysis on. So we break down this poem, share this poem, and let's have a good talk about this poem.
Well, the inspiration behind this poem is I sat one day, I was writing this book, I'm a BV Man, I is a BV Man. And I began to reflect all the people that I had to face when I was growing up. And I began to realize that the villages were so close-knit. People had false names, which were fond names by which they were called, and people were known by their professions, but there was a kind of a oneness among the people. Everybody knew everybody's story. If you want to say BB Talk name, everybody was like family in the village.
You admit.
Reluctantly.
You confess.
It was from that kind of atmosphere that I recreated, I reminisced, that I decided to put the whole theme poem of I is a BV Man together. Permit me to read a little from it.
Hold on, wait. I is a BV Man. For those who speak the Queen's English, they're going to tell you that is not English. So let me state here, it's not English, it's Creolese. I is a BV Man. And you could say I is a Buxton woman.
Exactly.
All right. Perfect language for we who grew up there.
Yes.
Yes. Be multilingual.
Yes. So here goes. I is a BV man, me navel string buried there. I is a bona fide owner of part of that village. I don't care what nobody said. If you think a lie, ask Titi Abel, Miss Katie, Auntie Minnie, Baby Buck, ask Cousin Eula Waldron, ask Gina Mingo, Cynthia Cummins, Joe Gaynor, Granny Mima, up to the minute, ask Cousin Virgil Robinson. You know but Teacher Louisa, who used to ride a preggy You know why they used to call she cornpole? You know about Teacher Prophet Ross, Teacher Blyden, Teacher Victoria Creval, and Teacher Mignan. These are some of the people from BV that nobody can ever clone. You know about John Adams, who ran into Sambash Parker? You know about Bayer Bledman and Winston Adams, the chucker out at Louis Cinema? You know about Mr. Knights and Claude Lowe the tailor? You know about Handel, who got the record for the longest engagement? You know about Richie the shoemaker? Then there was Papa Daddy, Daddy Rex, Daddy Arthur, Daddy Man, Yangur, Look Aside, and Jack the painter. There was also Lord Mud, John Ross, Donkey Brains, Kaduri, Cock Robin, a step at the bow, Back Down Side Cobabaj, Said Sugar, and Sataku and Ezekiah. You know about Muna?
Muna?
You know what he did in the coca? You don't even look like you know about Miss Dika, Shalitel, and Miss Drusilla, who used to make black pudding. I wouldn't even ask you if you know about More from Hendrix Rum Shop, which was opposite Wong Baker Shop, which was near to Mr. Slow, who used to make coffin. He's a beefy man. Don't watch me, sir. Me mother don't like salt and pepper mouth wash pan with me. If you don't know who me is, you better find out. You better ask somebody. I is Miss Bortabai. I was born by the old police station. In them days, everybody used to live together without political manipulation. Me neighbor was Miss Sati. Her husband was Ramlal. And Ramsar shop was not too far away. Malyara cake shop up the road. Them Tiwari used to mine cow. People said Job used to walk in them Tiwari yard all day. In me day, we used to say black man sala, pong masala, and puli water rice, pork and spice. We used to say potegi bumba fat cucumber. In me days, Chinese man used to sell fried rice and give you to carry home in a brown paper bag. But Chinese would never eat that fried rice that he's selling you because Chinese people only used to eat roast dog. We used to say these things for fun, to tantalize one another and feel great. But today, people twist these things around. What was once done for pleasure, people full up with hate. Oh my God. Is where I come from by. Hate. Oh my God. Is where I come from by. You ever hear about hire car drivers like Winfield, Nali, Aku, Kochor, and Budzo? You ever hear about Sataku, Inshan, Patsy, Chigadwa, and how who in this world could drive faster than that crazy Joe? Why pass me, man? Don't smile with me. Me don't take shame face and shake cockabee man hand. I is not a stranger. I is a born villager. I is an authentic BV man. I used to catch crap on the seawall. The same place where we used to go to swim, do athletics, fly kite, and beep. The village was one big farmyard. Who didn't mind it fowl and duck and giddy bird? They minded donkey, cow, pig, and sheep. I used to hail up on train. I used to jump in pond for sugarcane. I used to buy Marby from Jokin and Linda and from Uncle Willie. Lord have mercy, until one day I see them sleeping over that Marby bucket. And when they dribble, they think, bother me. Look, I can tell you enough story, but people in the village, they get soft now. They don't tantalize anymore. I can tell you who had Baku, who was Olag, who family used to thief, but people, family would get embarrassed. They would get embarrassed for sure. I is a BV man. I don't care what nobody said. When it's time for me to bury, me bones going back right there. I is a BV man.
Prapatak. This is the Kwesi Oginga. Maestro.
Word.
Oh, Kwesi, my belly hurt me. This is what I love about Guyanese lyricism, Guyanese expression, this cultural expression in this language that we have. It can bear all our stories and all our cultural experiences. Marlies, what you got to say, girl?
The beautiful thing I like when listening to it, it's that there's this thread that you can almost trace your ancestry.
Amen.
By just listening to that poem, because you can almost take that piece of spoken word and put it right onto the continent of Africa. Go right to the villages, and a child that grew up, or a man or a woman that grew up in a village, can literally put themselves right into that. That's what I love about it. To me, it's a tracing of ancestries, and to me also a ode to the elders that are still there, to kind of see themselves and hear their stories and see their impact. And I know you mentioned about now you can't tease anybody, you can't call anybody false name and that kind of stuff. It's almost like people's skin have become so thin that as soon as you say anything, but that in itself, I think, created the teasing and the joking around and the kind of stuff. To me, it caused you to build a certain strength and character that you can almost face anything. That when you leave that close-knit community, you can almost strive any other place because you've felt it all, you've seen it all. I'll be quiet now, but I think that's what I like with Isa BV, man, that it really, it's an ode to the ancestors and also kind of pay homage to the elders that are still present.
Yeah, and it carries the spirit of the culture.
Yes.
You see the fact that people could have known people so intimately. Talk against this philosophy we got that we people don't unite, or we can't unite, or there's always some beef going on between our people.
Yeah.
Our history don't really say so at a social level like that. Yeah, we used to bond in the villages. It takes a village. You say we can pull it out of a page of Africa. It takes a village.
Yeah.
Everybody was related to somebody in some way. It doesn't matter what your vocation was. You had meaning, you had significance in the village.
And
you were respected
resources
for it.
And with that, I think resources were shared too. And that's why you find, even if kids or if a family was not too well to do, they didn't particularly go hungry because people knew how to, you don't have to embarrass them to say, well, openly give them a loaf of bread or whatever the case is. And the same thing, if people were sick in a certain kind of way, that community created, who the healers were, who can help and all that kind of stuff. People didn't, people talk your story or whatever the case is, but there was also a sense of privacy and confidentiality in community because people stay close together. So it's not like now where people talk because they just talk because they can. People used to talk, but still protect each other's privacy in a certain kind of way. And families protected their own privacy.
And there was a sense of entertainment in the way that they did these things. That's why you see me talk about tantalizing, that kind of stuff. However, there's another extension that this poem draws. And that is to the fact that, notice, many races were living together in the same space. When you look at what's going on these days, you wonder, what is it that causes us to drift apart? I was living in BV, and on my road had Indian people, Portuguese people. In as much as Chinese people were a bit isolated, we lived together because they provided a service to the village. There was a kind of interplay between people that was powerful and meaningful and valuable.
Yes, and I think that interplay not erase Blackness or Indianness or Chineseness, because as you mentioned, we could laugh because you said what the Chinese mothers do and things like that. So we still had our sense of self existing in the village, but we still knew about each other and were aware of each other and even interacted with each other. I would not say, in case people think that we're talking about utopia here, a village is not a utopia.
Oh, no.
Village has a lot of problems, lots of problems, and you mentioned some of them. But is the give and take. What the poem gives to me, when I listen to this poem, I see action, I see movement. It's alive, it's a rhythm,
it's vibrant,
teeming with life and color, that I could see the Mabi people, I could see the children on the street, I could see cousins. So you mentioned Shilitel. I know cousin Shilitel is my family. She was a
family too.
Lady. I think she was part Indian, East Indian, I don't know.
Yes, she had a kind of light complexion,
She used to walk from BV to Buxton.
Yeah.
And she had this kind of voice about kind of hoarse. She said, and so anytime cousin Shilitel come to village.
Yes, it's true.
When she come, my mother was at past. She always get a little kerchief. She take off her bosom. Take out the kerchief from her bosom and she going to take out 5 cents.
Yes.
Or whatever.
That was the day.
Because that's the way
sharing.
People read. Right. So when I'm going from Buxton village to BV, there's this connection. So what I'm seeing here is a kind of a wholeness in the parts. We're a part of.
Yes.
And I don't know if apart from, but we are part of.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So so the attributes of a BV man, the things that make up a BV man, as far as I could see, is community spirit, the accountability and accounting for our actions, our behaviors, and our history. What you did, you read a poem, but for me, a poem is not I don't think in terms of poetry. I think in terms of these writings has history, as a writing of history. I don't like to write the history that I read in the books, in 1890, this, that happened, and the account of dates. But for history, for me, is this living, breathing thing that we can now put together in a kind of form that's deliverable, that can be passed on, because I could hear somebody on a stage somewhere reciting this poem, somebody in the house who having home concert. Y'all ever had a home concert where you're little? Everybody in the house was a poem. Like that. So those who are listening, get your children, get this poem and you act out this thing, talk this thing, make your own thing. So I'm going to stop there for now while we go into something else.